Ever wondered what could make medieval royalty lose their minds? Turns out it was pie, but not just any pie. This was the most expensive, most guarded, most sought-after pie in history, and someone had the guts to steal it. So there they were, the cream of medieval society, gathered for the biggest feast of the year at Windsor Castle. King Henry VI had spared no expense. We're talking peacocks with their feathers still on, golden plates, and the crown jewel of the feast, the legendary blackbird pie. This wasn't your grandma's apple pie. It was worth about $80,000 in today's money. The guests were practically drooling as the royal baker carried it through the great hall. But then, crash! The pie hit the floor. The room went silent. And that's when people noticed something weird. The pie was already empty. Someone had stolen the filling right under everyone's noses. The king's face turned redder than a tomato, and what happened next would shake the entire kingdom. You might think being a medieval chef was all about cooking fancy meals, but these kitchen warriors were basically walking on eggshells, literally and figuratively. One wrong ingredient, one overcooked dish, and boom, you're accused of trying to poison the king. That's right, royal chefs had to taste test everything before it reached the king's lips. And we're not talking about a tiny nibble. They had to eat a full portion and wait an hour to prove it wasn't poisoned. Talk about a nerve-wracking performance review. Some chefs even had to sign death warrants before accepting the job. Because hey, if the king gets a tummy ache, guess who's getting the axe? Here's the wild thing about these pies. They weren't just fancy food. They were medieval nuclear codes. The secret recipe included rare spices worth more than gold, exotic birds that took months to hunt down, and get this, actual gold leaf. But the real kicker? These pies contained secret messages baked into the crust. Kings would use them to send classified intel to other rulers. One bite of the wrong pie could spill state secrets. The recipe was so valuable that royal bakers were kept in locked chambers while cooking. Some kingdoms even spread fake recipes to throw off their rivals. It was basically the medieval version of top-secret military tech, except you could eat it. Let me tell you about the most paranoid job in medieval history, the royal food taster. These brave souls weren't just taste testing for flavor, they were human guinea pigs. Every castle had a network of spies disguised as kitchen staff, watching each other like hawks. The head chef would make 3 identical dishes, one for the taster, one for the king, and one for, well, evidence if things went south. Some food tasters got so good at detecting poison they could spot it by smell alone. But here's the crazy part. Most poisonings actually came from the food going bad, not from assassins. These kitchen spies spent their whole lives suspecting murder plots when the real killer was just a warm day and some dodgy fish. Here's where things get really wild. The thieves didn't just walk in through the front door. They pulled off the medieval version of Ocean's 11. They snuck in through the castle's drainage system, timing their heist with the changing of the guards. But the real genius? They replaced the pie filling with colored sawdust, so when the baker picked it up, it still felt the right weight. The whole operation took weeks of planning, including bribing a washerwoman who mapped out the kitchen schedule. They even trained a bunch of blackbirds to create a distraction in the courtyard. I mean, who looks at a meat pie and thinks, yeah, I'm going to steal that through a sewer? These weren't just thieves, they were medieval masterminds. So how do you catch a pie thief in medieval times? You call in the food detectives. The king assembled a crack team of his smartest guards and most experienced hunters. They studied pie crumbs like modern CSI studies DNA. They discovered tiny bits of moss on the kitchen floor, moss that only grew in one part of the castle's underground tunnels. The guards even used specially trained dogs who could smell the unique spices from the pie filling. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a young kitchen boy who noticed something strange about the castle's resident cats. They'd all been suspiciously well fed on the night of the heist. You think the pie heist was wild? That's just the appetizer of medieval food crimes. Take the Great Sugar Swap of 1387, when someone replaced a French king's entire sugar supply with salt. The poor guy ruined 3 royal feasts before figuring it out. Or how about the honey trap of York? A crafty chef convinced everyone he had magical bees making golden honey. Turns out he was painting regular honey with gold paint. But my favorite has to be the laughing feast of 1422, where someone snuck giggly mushrooms into the royal soup. Imagine a room full of nobles rolling on the floor, crying with laughter during peace negotiations. The kitchen really was the most dangerous room in the castle. You'd think stealing a pie would get you a slap on the wrist, right? Wrong. In medieval times, food theft from the royal kitchen was right up there with treason. The standard punishment: getting boiled alive in a giant pot of soup. But here's the twist. Our pie thieves were too smart to get caught. The king was so embarrassed about the whole thing, he made up a story about giving the pie away as a gift. But he did catch some copycats trying to pull off similar heists. One guy tried hiding inside a giant cheese wheel. Seriously. He ended up spending 2 years in the castle dungeons, forced to taste test suspicious-looking meals for the royal family. Talk about just desserts. Here's where this pie story gets a massive twist. Turns out the royal chef was behind it all. After 20 years of cooking perfect pies, he discovered the king was planning to replace him with a fancy French cook. So he hatched the ultimate revenge plot. He didn't just steal the pie, he sold copies of the secret recipe to rival kingdoms. The king's spies started spotting identical pies popping up at enemy courts. Suddenly, England's most closely guarded culinary secret was spreading faster than gossip at a medieval market. The chef vanished without a trace, but legend says he opened a super successful pie shop in Italy, serving mysteriously royal-tasting pies to wealthy merchants. That stolen pie turned medieval kitchens into fortresses. Castles started installing triple-locked spice vaults and hired professional food guards. Yes, that became a real job. Some kings got so paranoid they made chefs cook in sealed rooms with tiny windows for passing food through. The really crazy part: they created the first ever food tracking system. Each ingredient got tagged with colored threads that had to match at every cooking stage. And get this, some castles even built separate decoy kitchens to throw off potential thieves. All this because of one missing pie. It's like they invented TSA-level security just for dinner. Thanks for joining me on this wild journey through medieval food crimes. If you enjoyed this taste of history, smash that like button and subscribe for more crazy stories from the past. Share with your friends, they'll eat it up.